Hey guys, what's up? It's Catrice, also known as the coach, and I am super excited to talk to you today about this subject. I actually decided randomly that I was going to hop on here and have a conversation with you because the subject we're going to be talking about, I love. And I really felt like I had some things that I have gone through in my life in which I could share with you. And what are we going to be talking about today? Well, chances you probably already know because you looked at the title, but let's just pretend that you don't know. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Money. I like money. Do you like money? I like money. And I also think, in regards to money, that money is the root of all happiness. And if you stick around and let me explain, I'll tell you why. But before we dive into that little moment that we had, I want to let you know that I wish we talked about money more. I feel like money has a negative connotation. I feel like money has got swept under the rug. I feel like at some point in time, hopefully in 2021, we can convince high school seniors and the educational system that they should be teaching these high school seniors how to do their taxes. It's 2021. You can't tell these kids how to do their taxes. I feel like it's important information. Think of all the things you learned in high school that you forgot. And this is like the one thing that would have traveled with you the entirety of your life, especially because at, grade 11, grade 12, you're really just diving into getting your financial journey started. You need to know about where's the best place to save your money, where's the best place to invest your money, how to save up for retirement, and how to do your taxes. But no, we don't really talk about that much in school. And chances are you kind of get the hush hush when you try to have financial conversations with people. Like you're not supposed to talk about money or salaries or how much, this costs or that. Like, how much did you pay for that? Like, it's almost a taboo question. And I really want to take the blinders, I guess, and take them off, take them off of this subject because I think it is so important. Now, I was telling you that money, I think, is the root of all happiness. You have heard that money is the root of all evil and that money can't buy you happiness. But I think money buys the clothes that you're wearing. And I think money buys the roof that's over your head. And I think money buys the food that you eat. Money is a very crucial tool. And when we're talking about tools, we're talking about a tool that gives you access to things that you need for survival. So if you need food to survive and the tool you need is money to buy you food, well, then if you don't have money, somehow I believe you to be very unhappy. I mean, have you been hungry before and not been happy? I mean, that's just how it works. We all understand. It's true. I have definitely been through some interesting money situations. Now, I was lucky because growing up, my dad loved to talk about money. I don't know why I said loved as if it's past tense. He loves still to talk about money. If you could imagine a person who just would talk about money all day long and how you can save it, how you can invest it, and how you can make it work for you, this man is it. And as you can imagine, as a child, me listening to this man just go on and on and on and on and on about money, he knew that I wasn't listening. No teenage child is listening to their parents. It's pretty much a rule. And then you realize as you get older, maybe, maybe he was on to something. Maybe he knew exactly what he was talking about. P.S. By the way, don't tell him that. He still needs to be a dad. And if you're a parent, you understand that you're probably just going to go crazy wondering if you are actually giving sane information or not. And you probably are, but it's just the rule, teenage rule. Parents just don't know what's going on, and parents just don't understand. See, it's just a rule. So don't go tell him that he was right. Um, I was lucky in that sense that he talked about it so much because I had something to switch back to. But I was also unlucky because I was that ornery teenager that kind of just had to do things their own way. And so, by my own way, I had to figure out my way back to what I would consider financial freedom. And in the talks of this financial freedom, I don't know if that's an actual term or terminology or not, I wanted to kind of share with you some things that I've done that changed my entire budgeting, financing, saving, spending life. Now, let me just give you a little bit more backstory to that. Number one, I definitely am a recovering shopaholic. You talk about somebody who likes to impulse buy some things, me. I'm an impulse buy extraordinaire. I just don't know what it was. I knew all about budgeting. I knew how to set myself up for success when it came to budgeting, but I still just did what I wanted to do. So I'm going to share with you 5 things that kind of have come about that through my experiences. And I would love to, because I feel like when it comes to money, and I already said this, people kind of shove it under the rug as if it just disappears. Money talk is never disappearing. It's part of our everyday lives, whether or not we want to talk about it or not. But I would love to hear some things that you have kind of gone through and what is making you a financial success. Now, the things that I'm going to talk about were in a time where I wasn't spending my money greatly. And I don't want to just sit here and tell you, make a budget, even though you should. Maybe I will tell you to make a budget. I won't tell you to make a budget. But if you have not made a budget, let me explain to you that is the number one thing you should be doing. You should be holding yourself accountable through your budget. You should understand your money inside and outside. In fact, let's just go ahead and start with that. Number one, you should know your financial identity. Not only who you are now, but where you want to be financially in the future. That was one thing that I struggled with. Now, halfway, not even halfway. I knew, I don't know why I knew this at such an early age, and still know, that I wanted to retire. Like things that I'm going to do in my life, I'm going to retire. So, in me knowing that, I set up all kinds of avenues for my money to go into retirement funds. I didn't really know much about anything else except for, hey, they say that you need a retirement fund to retire. I was like, cool, retirement fund. Where can I sign up for one of those? But if I wouldn't have known that about myself, I wouldn't be able to plan for that. And that's the interesting thing about money is that it just doesn't happen overnight. It takes time for you to earn it. And sometimes it takes no time for you to spend it, but it definitely takes time. So if retirement is a goal of yours, you need to know that so you know how to save up for it. If owning a home is a goal of yours, you need to know that so you know how to save up for it. All of these things cost a lot of money, a lot, a lot. And so knowing it ahead of time, and the earlier you know, the better. Now, that's not saying that you can't make changes as you're going through your life. I change my mind often. I think most people do, but at least having a goal and a direction. One thing that I've never changed my mind though about is retiring. Now that I think about it, I plan to retire one day. I'm going to be on a beach, little house in the back, chilling. Like, and I want to do that as early as is allowable to me. So understanding your financial identity. All right. The second thing that I did, and you'll have to excuse me because I'm looking down at my notes so I don't get super far off track, is spend and plan better. So that also seems very much like what I just said, understanding your financial identity, but it's also understanding, like, once you know all the numbers of your budget, being able to plan better, track better. And you can't do that if you don't know the numbers. I ought to be able to ask you how much your bills are, and you ought to be able to tell me. I ought to be able to ask you how much you would need to live on for a month in case something happened and you couldn't work. You should know that number. I ought to be able to ask you how much your insurance is. You ought to be able to tell me. How much are you saving for retirement? You ought to be able to tell me. How much is in your savings account? You ought to be able to tell me. How much are you putting away to save? You ought to be able to tell me. How much would it take for you to need in the bank for you to live for an entire year? You ought to be able to tell me. You should know your financial situation inside and out. You should be an expert on your financial life. So, one, understand your financial identity. Where is it you want to go? Two, make sure that you have all the numbers written out, every single one of them. And what I had to do in my financial journey is that I had to force myself to be accountable for some of those things that I was spending money on. So if I was going to go eat at fast food restaurants, I knew what the budget was for that. And if I was going to be spending money in stores, I knew what the budget was for that too. Christmas time, know what the budget is for that. Ask me about birthdays, I know what the budget is for that. It's never a guess. I'm never guessing how much money I'm going to be spending for the month. I know the money that's coming in. It has been itemized out so that it is a flat line, and I know exactly where my money is going at all times. I think that is very important. All right. One thing that came about, this is thing number 3, I think, is going to be a little bit random of a situation, but I was, like I said, a shopaholic. I specifically like to buy clothes, and I had to find a way to fulfill my desire to want to be trendy and feel good about my outfits and what I was wearing without spending as much money as I was spending. So I came across this thing called Capsule Wardrobes. Capsule Wardrobes are way cool. If you've never heard of it, I would suggest you email. I would suggest you Google Project 333. That was one of the first things that I remember coming across when it had to deal with capsule wardrobes. But in short, in order for me to get that boost of I have new things in my closet, I really just had to pare down my stuff into seasons, and then everything else I kind of packed away. So I'd have like my solid base and then like a small amount of things that were out. And then when the season was over, I could take out some of those specific pieces that said, hey, it's definitely wintertime because you're wearing sweaters, and then interchange it with something else that was a little bit lighter to match the season. So cut down on my spending a lot, made me challenge myself in my wardrobe, made me be extremely creative, which is really what all I was looking for. I just like the creative aspect of putting together wardrobes. So capsule wardrobing, that was something else that I did. All right, let's see. Number 4. And this one is important. And I want to say this because I had to experience it. And I feel like most people have to experience something tragic before they do something to put them back in the right direction. And I wish that people weren't set up like that. I wish you could just say, hey, P.S. by the way, you should really have an emergency fund. Like, you should really have enough money in the bank that if there were an emergency, you wouldn't have to freak out. And when I was young and I was just spending all my money everywhere in all kinds of ways, I promise you, I didn't have an emergency fund. I promise you. And young me was like, what kind of emergency could possibly happen? And one emergency layered on top of another emergency later, I realized that that was a position I never wanted to be in again. I never wanted to be in that position. So, again, if you want an emergency fund in the bank, that's something that goes back to your financial identity. Having so much control of your finances, that even if you were to lose your job, you're still good for a while. Like, oh, you don't want me to work here? Cool. I'm going to hang out for a couple of weeks, maybe go on a nice vacation, and then I'll start looking for a job in like a month or so, like, because I'm good. But it usually doesn't happen like that. I know it didn't happen for me like that the first time. The next emergency, I was ready. And the emergency after that, also ready. So just understand that life happens. That's just the name of the game. Life, real life, it happens. So be prepared. And this puts you in a position to be in control. It puts you in a position to lift a weight off of your shoulder. Emergency fund. And it takes time to save. Again, these big things, they take time to save for. So start thinking about having small things in the bank or big money. Just have money in the bank. All right. Next thing here is the last one. I guess let me go into depth just like a minute extra. So I started to save up for my emergency fund because I knew that I was going to restaurants like on a regular basis. And so I decided that I would take myself to lunch every Saturday. And I set up a direct deposit in the amount of $12, $10. I think it's $10. At that time, I set up a direct deposit at $10, and it just every Saturday pulls money out of my account. Every Saturday, I take myself to lunch. And really, I'm not taking myself anywhere, but that money comes straight out of my account like I went somewhere, and it goes straight into my savings. And if you can imagine saving just $10 a month, it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you've been doing that for 10 years, it accumulates. And I didn't do nothing but take myself to lunch. So, all right, last thing here. This was the big one for me. It took me a while to curate this, but once I got it curated, changed my life. And that is a no spend month. Now, I could go into depth about how I did my no spend month. The first time I did it, it was a train wreck, as you could imagine. Well, I don't know why a recovering shopaholic thought, oh, I'm just going to stop spending all the things. Like, no, you're not. And I didn't. It took me, I had to go back to the drawing board and take small steps. But when I was ready for that no spend month, I really had all the rules and everything in place and I was ready to go. Oh, it changed and has changed the way that I spend my money and save my money. Hands down, if I could recommend anything, it is a no spend month. And so a lot of people always ask me, okay, when you're in a no spend month, does that mean you don't spend anything? No, that's ridiculous. You pay all your bills and really that's it. Pay all your bills and any necessities that you need. So food, but it's not even extravagant food. It's like food that's good for you that you can eat and that's it. Like, and you get a small budget to do some additional things with. And that's what I had to do in the beginning. But I've been doing a no spend month for like years now. And I got to the point where I can literally just chill and I don't have to spend any money on additional things because it turns out I thought all this time that people were just making so much more money than me and they were able to buy all these things. But no, that's not it. The money that you have, it's the money that you earned. If you can keep that money, then it'll work for you. And if you spend it, well, then that's why you feel like you're in debt. But really, the best way to save money is not to spend it on trash. So that is going to be it for me today. Let me know again what you do to put yourself in financial freedom status, or if there's something that I talked about today that maybe you might want to try. I know I'm doing a no spend month in October. I always do one. So let me know if you want to jump on board with that. That is it for today. I think I said that already. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for the next video. It'll let you know if you hit the little bell, when's the next time we can hang out, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.